Joining us now, White House columnist for our partners at The Hill, Niall Stanage. Evidently, at least according to Barak Ravid, Hamas just rejected the U.S. proposal as well, or Anwar Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, did. We'll get to that in a minute. But just from the last time you and I talked, that President Biden laid out this grand plan and made it sound like, hey, a deal was imminent. 14 days later, there's not going to be a deal. 2 weeks. It's going to be 2 weeks since the President of the United States said something was going to happen. It didn't happen. Does the U.S., does the White House, does President Biden risk making the United States, I don't want to say this, but irrelevant?
Well, he certainly risks, I think, making the United States look impotent in a sense. Because, look, he said at that time 2 weeks ago, not only was there going to be a deal, but that it was a deal that could lead to the permanent cessation of hostilities. And he implied that that could happen while Hamas is still in existence in some kind of meaningful way. There is literally no evidence that Benjamin Netanyahu agrees with that, nor that the Israeli government or the cabinet agrees with that. The Biden administration keeps advancing this as an Israeli proposal, but Netanyahu has said there are gaps between what Biden says and what he believes. So there's a lot of lack of clarity, and I'm not sure it is constructive ambiguity. It just seems more of a debacle to me.
So what is, if we think that these are smart people doing things that they view as in their perceived best interest? We know why Benjamin Netanyahu is doing what is in his perceived best interest, oftentimes politically motivated, not necessarily motivated by what's best for his country. People can debate that. But from the White House side, why is President Biden seeming willing to risk so much, including the international standing of the United States, to appear like he's trying to get a deal?
Because he needs to appear that way, I think, for his own party, which, of course, is deeply split on this issue. There is just no question now, Leland, if you look at the polls, that the majority of Democratic voters sympathise more with the Palestinian side than with the Israeli side overall. We've seen the votes in Democratic primaries for the uncommitted line, which is effectively a protest vote against the president's policy. He needs to be seen to be doing something. So I think he's trying to sort of force these two sides together with great difficulty, against their will to a degree, and certainly with extremely limited success so far.
Wall Street Journal reporting Gaza's chief's brutal calculation, civilian bloodshed will help Hamas. Sinwar's correspondence, that's the leader of Hamas in Gaza, with compatriots and mediators, show he is confident that Hamas can outlast Israel. In other words, make Israel continue the war so long that it becomes an international pariah. Point taken that Benjamin Netanyahu has not said that he is willing to allow Hamas to stay in power. Hamas has not even come close to saying they're willing to have a ceasefire where they release Israeli hostages. Why should this continue to be on the Israelis?
Well, Hamas, as I understand it, backed or expressed support for that United Nations Security Council resolution earlier this week, which is, again, a complicated matter because it not only frames the supposed ceasefire proposal, it also goes into commitment to a two-state solution and things of that nature. Now, you said at the start that Barak Ravid is reporting that Hamas has rejected the ceasefire deal. That, as I understand it, comes from briefings from Israeli officials, who, of course, have their own interest in putting the burden on Hamas if there's to be no deal here. What we're seeing is sides kind of indicating that they might be willing to have a deal, but balking at the specifics.
Well, that's fair. And to be fair, Hamas was the one who said they agreed to a deal that actually wasn't a deal in the past. But let's turn back domestically here. There was a headline out of Chicago from the Chicago Tribune that the Chicago DNC of 2024 will not be a repeat of 1968, of the chaos in Chicago. I think what you're alluding to when you talk about the need by President Biden to get a deal is that if there is not a ceasefire, and maybe even if there is, the Chicago Tribune is right. 2024 will not be a repeat of 1968. It will be a lot worse for Democrats.
Yes, 100%. I think you and I come at this broad issue from different perspectives, but I think we're in complete agreement that the Democratic National Convention could be potentially disastrous for the president unless there's a deal.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.